Hey guys, welcome to Mara's Junk Drawer. I am Mara, and today, as you can see by the title, we're going to be getting into my January reading wrap up. Long time no see. It was about to be even longer because, baby, this is my third time recording this video. Baby, I needed that. Oh, I needed that. Man. Okay, so let's get into the books. So, I read a total of 7 books, but I physically read 6, and one was on audio slash physical, but majority audio. And so one of my 2025 goals was to track my reading. Was to track my reading through a reading app, and I have been utilizing Storygraph. So I have been tracking my reading for the whole month of January on Storygraph. So proud of myself. But I feel like there was something else I was going to say, but I can't remember. And I'm also a little distracted. I still have my fanny pack on, child. Like, I literally just got in the house from taking all the kids to school. And then I have to be at work in an hour. Oh, baby. Thank God for coffee. I was going to stop and get a latte. So for the month of January, one of my January goals was to not purchase any outside lattes, and to only drink home coffee. And the only time I could get an outside latte is if it was free, like if somebody purchased it for me, or if I utilize the points from my points app, because if you have so many points, you can get free coffee. So I had a total of 6 free coffee in January. 2 of them were from Danny Reads here on YouTube. So thank you, Danny. And then the rest of them were from free points that I had on my different coffee apps. But yeah, I was going to go out and get a latte today. And I feel like doing that goal in January had put me in my place. Because now I don't really have a desire to go purchase outside lattes as much as I did when I was making it a bad habit. But yeah, I was going to go buy a latte today, an outside latte, but I'm like, no, I need to come home and film this video, because if I stop and get a latte, it's just going to give me less time to record this video. If you're a mother, you already know. We got to get in where we fit in, baby, okay? Okay, so the way I'm going to discuss these books is in no particular order. So let's start with Alice Feeney, Beautiful Ugly, and I will have the books up here on the screen, as well as I will try to link them down below. So yeah, we're starting with Alice Feeney's Beautiful Ugly. If you see me looking down, I have my iPad mini. So yeah, we're starting with Alice Feeney, Beautiful Ugly. And this follows, is it Abby? I think her name is Abby and Gary. And they are a couple. So the book opens up with them being having a troubled marriage. Abby, more so, she is feeling like her husband is just not giving her what she needs in certain aspects of their marriage, not just intimately, but other aspects as well, because he is an author and he's just so, him and his books go together real bad. He's a dedicated author, and if he could marry his books, he would. That's just what he wants to do, and that's where he's locked in at. And so he is having a celebration with one of his books. What is on my iPad at the beginning of the book, and she is on her way home to come celebrate with him. And she does journalism, extreme journalism, like she goes after people who were wrongfully accused, and so she exposes pretty much mainly rich people who try to sweep certain crimes under the rug. So she's like a crime journalist, and she's on her way home from work, so she's like buried in her work as well. So then Gary feels like he's lacking something from his wife as well. So it just the book just opens up with them being in like a troubled marriage. And on her way to meet him at home to celebrate with him because they're waiting on this call, she sees a woman in the middle of the road, like laying down. She doesn't know if she's dead or alive. And she's currently on the phone with her husband, Gary. And he's like, well, don't get out the car. Let me just, because they're like not too far. She's not too far from home. So he's like, I'll come meet you. Just stay there. Don't get out. And she don't listen. She's a very stubborn woman. So she's like one of those type of girls, ain't no man about to tell me what to do. And so she gets out of the car anyway. When she gets out the car, Gary no longer hears his wife. And that just starts into his wife's disappearance for a year and where he is that year later and what's going on. So then he gets this opportunity from his agent, publishing agent, to go to this island and write his next novel that he's contracted to write. And so he goes to this island that you have to take a ferry to this island to stay in this cabin. And in this cabin, there was a future author who used to live in this cabin who wrote books. He was kind of like a James Patterson type author, where like he was producing his books back to back. People loved him, and he passed away. And so the author who passed away left the cabin to Gary's publishing agent, and because they both had the same agent, Gary and this other author, they both had the same agent. So he left the cabin to the agent. And so she was like, well, he left me this cabin. Maybe you should go clear your mind and have a nice peaceful place to write, because the cabin sits up high on a mountain and you can overlook like the ocean and woo. So Gary ends up going to the island, and the island there's only a woman on this island, and it's giving creepy, and he's just trying to like what's going on? Like this creepy stuff starts happening in the cabin, and the cell phone towers don't work. The people are telling him that you can't take a ferry back to the mainland. I think they're in Ireland. You can't take a ferry back to Ireland because the water, our ferry's so small, we have limited resources. So that's what that's giving. This is my first Alice Feeney book, and of course the plot twists are twisting for sure, but this is my first Alice Feeney book, so I'm not sure if she is known as like a slow thriller writer, or if all of her books are slow and giving like cozy thriller, but that's what it gave for me. And I'm not used to reading slow-paced thrillers. I'm used to like S.A. Cosby, Shanora Williams, and Big Frida when it comes to like my thrillers and mysteries. What's the other Alyssa Cole? I think Alyssa Cole. I would say her thriller is giving cozy thriller as well. Hers was not fast paced at all. And I'm not sure if I'm a fan of slow paced thrillers. Like the cozy thrillers, like Geneva Rose, the book that I read, where Home is Where the Bodies Are, that was giving cozy thriller to me too. I'm not sure if I'm a fan of cozy thrillers. I feel like the plot and the twist just have to be just so extravagant for me to just like really rave about it. But yeah, I feel like Beautiful Ugly was very much slow, cozy thriller. It wasn't bad, but it also wasn't thrilling for me, and the plot twist wasn't shocking. And like I said, I don't know if it's because it's so slow. It's not like she's building you up for a high climax. It's just like you're just on this like journey of a nice thrilling moment. So yeah, that's my thoughts on it. I would probably have to read Priya inboxed me and said rock, paper, scissors didn't read slow, so maybe I'll try rock, paper, scissors. Next, let's move on to Unhinged by Octavia Grant. Y'all know, if you don't know, Octavia Grant is the queen of unhinged horror stories. Most of her books are novellas, so you can literally eat it up in one sitting, but she puts so much in that novella where your jaw is going to be on the floor. This is my second book from her. The other book that I read from her was Work Husband, and this book made my stomach hurt. I read this almost a year ago, so I can only take her in small doses. I cannot eat her books up back to back. It's just not going to happen for me. So in the book Unhinged by Octavia Grant, we follow Olivia, who, I'm not going to lie, when I was reading this book, I low-key thought, wait, what's going on? I low-key thought she was talking about herself because Olivia, in their names, okay, Olivia Octavia, like, come on now. So Olivia in the book, the book follows Olivia, who's currently in prison, and a journalist has come to interview her to see. Okay, I had to take a quick break. Um, so a journalist has come to the prison to interview Olivia because Olivia has unalived her spouse, and they want to know why she did it, and she has like no remorse. She doesn't regret it, and so she literally just lays it all out on the table. And what I loved about this book is that it was a bunch of unhinged short story after short story after short story, and each one of them were crazy because the journalist asked Olivia, like, are you still, because Olivia is also an author, and the journalist was like, are you still writing stories? And Olivia was like, yeah. And then Olivia goes into sharing the stories that she has been writing recently, which are a bunch of short stories. And baby, this book made my stomach hurt. I feel like every Octavia Grant book is probably going to make my stomach hurt because it's just like, child, how do you sleep at night writing stuff like this? Actually, yeah, how do you sleep at night? So I did enjoy that one, even though it was just on the craziest of crazies. Okay, next we have The Deep by River Solomon. So for the year 2025, me, Gaia, and Aaron, yeah, me, Gaia, and Aaron are doing buddy reads monthly. And so for the month of January, our buddy read pick was The Deep by River Solomon. And I was excited to read this because after reading Model Home by River Solomon, the depth that they put in their book is like the type of depth that I like. Like River Solomon covers Black trauma as well as like they also give, I said she, my bad. They give like historical fiction vibes. And so it's just like I knew I was going to eat up some of their other work if that's how their work was going to come. So this will be the second book that I read from River Solomon, and I was just very excited to get into it. And this is a novella, so it's a quick read. And I also seen Kayla from Kayla's Bookish Vibes, our little prego book babe. She was talking about this book, and I believe she said she did like it. So, yeah, this is a novella. It's under 200 pages. And although I enjoyed the story, I felt like something was missing. And I don't know if it's just the other 100 pages. Because, so in the deep, we follow Yetu. She's a part of this mermaid community. Yeah, my voice keeps going out, and I'm not sure why. It's like I'm not able to project. Like I'm already a soft-spoken person. Like my stomach muscles contract real bad when I talk. So like when people ask me to speak louder, it's like I literally can't. But today, it's like my voice does not want to project today. So In the river, the deep by River Solomon, we follow Yetu. She is a part of a mermaid community, and that was created from pregnant black women who were thrown overboard from slave ships. And so once the pregnant women were thrown overboard into the ocean, the babies that were in the bellies of these women, when they are birthed, when they come through the birth canal and they come out into the ocean, they turn into these mermaids. There is a name for them, but I don't know how to pronounce it. And so, Yetu, in this mermaid community, I would say the culture of these mermaids are like the water people, to the Tentacle, I don't know how to say it. The water people from Black Panther 2. I would say the culture vibe of the water people from Black Panther 2 is like the culture of these people. And then I would say the way that they look is like the water people from Avatar 2. Like, that's like a perfect combination, like them two mixed together, of how the vibe of these mermaids are. And in this culture, they have one person who is considered like the memory keeper, but they call them the historians. They pick one appointed person to to carry the transgenerational trauma of the people. And so there's one day where they have a celebration, the memory day, where they come together in this big room, and the historian shares the memory, the truths of who they are as a people to the community, so that is their day of remembrance, remembering where they came from, how they were created, and any other memory that needs to be shared for that day. And then once the ceremony is over, the memory holder or historian takes all of the memories back, the painful memories back, and then people just go back to living their everyday lives like nothing happened. And they don't remember until ceremony day. And so Yetu, she gets fed up because the historian still has to live with this pain every single day while everyone around them is still living in ignorant bliss. And so she's like fed up, like wanting to break this cycle. Like, I no longer want to be a historian. I no longer want to handle the pain of my people. I no longer want to be the only person carrying all of this baggage. Her mother's not listening to her because, she's just an elder stuck in her ways. Like, this has been our ways for generation after generation. This is what we do as a community. And so Yetu, one day on the memory ceremony day, I can't remember what they call it, she transfers all the energy to her people so that they can remember the day of remembering of where they came from. And everybody is in pain because they are remembering where they came from. They're just obtaining all of their history. And Yetu hits her cut. She leaves them in the womb to receive all these downloads, and she hits her cut. She runs away. So it follows her journey of that's not funny, leaving her people, and yeah. And then the story also cuts to, which kind of made me confused at moments, because it's not like a crisp cut to where you're transitioning into a different story, because it's two stories in one. You follow the original mermaid people, like the two original mermaids who met this human, where they realize where they come from, because they're like, this human is very similar to who we are. And so the mermaid people, they're who they are as a people. Their ethnicity is named after the human. And so it follows them too, like the original historians, and then it's following Yetu. And so there was some moments where I would get confused, like, okay, whose story am I following? But so I do absolutely love the concept of these people coming from pregnant black slaves who were thrown overboard. from slave ships. I absolutely love that concept. Such a beautiful concept. And to turn it into the babies, the unborn babies being born mermaid, like they still had life even though their mother's life was taken. Like, I think that's such a beautiful concept. But I just felt like something was missing. And I don't know if it's just the next 100 pages. Like, did I want more culture vibes? Because it's mainly just following Yetu and her character flaws and her developing and her growth. And you don't get a lot of like culture of the people, the mermaid people. It's just mainly following Yetu. Like the culture of them being mermaids is just like a backstory kind of, and you're mainly following Yetu's journey of learning, letting go, and growing. All right. So next we have, what should we talk about next? Let's talk about Death of the Author by Anita Okafor. I'm not sure if I said her name right. If you keep seeing me look over to the side, it's because I am looking at myself in the viewfinder. But I did check this book out from the library. It's so beautiful. So beautiful. Here's a synopsis if you want to read it. If you want to screenshot it and read it. So I was kind of apprehensive about reading this because there was a few people who were also stating that they wasn't sure about this book, which I'm not sure why. I didn't look too much into it. But after reading this book, I feel like I want to get more into her work, like immediately. The only other book of hers that I have on my shelf is Akata Witch. And baby, when I say she ate with this book, she ate with this book. At the top of the book, it says the future of storytelling is here. And that's such an understatement because when I tell you, she is a phenomenal, not even enough words to do it justice, the book justice. Like, you would just have to read it and experience it for yourself. She is a phenomenal storyteller. Like, when someone say they want a bedtime story, that's the story that needs to be read. Now, the book is like 435 pages, I believe, and it's going to feel like 435 pages because it's such a long, like if that was to be a movie, it probably would be 3 hours long. Like, no lie. And even the movie being 3 hours long would probably still do that book no justice. Like, that's how long the book is. And I did read some of it physically only because there's like 3 books in one, which is also, I love the creativity. Like, baby, she ate with this book. So the 3 aspects of this book is a collection of interviews. So in these interviews, it is Zelu's friends and family being interviewed about Zelu. So the chapters where it says interview, it also has the person's name who's being interviewed in Shinri. I'm not sure how to pronounce these Nigerian names, but I think this is one of her sisters. And then the second aspect of the book is just following Zelu's journey, period. So the chapters where it's just the chapter and this the name of the chapter, that's just where you're cutting to Zelu present day. And then the third aspect of the book, which is my favorite aspect of the book, baby, when I tell you she ate with it, she ate with it. So the font is different, as well as on the chapters where you see the robot, that is another book called Rusted Robots. So this author, Needy Okafor, wrote about an author writing a book, and the book that the author was writing about in the book is in the book. Mind blown. One thing that I have realized is that I love this little micro trope of authors writing about authors, but when said book that is being written in the book is in the book, next level. Next level for me. Baby, that's just like breakfast, lunch, dinner, snack, appetizer, a glass of wine, baby. It's the whole 9 yards for me. So yeah. So we follow Zelu, who is a paraplegic, and she has a degree in creative writing. She recently gets what's going on? She recently gets fired from her job, and all of the books that she usually writes are getting just slammed by publishers. Publishers just like, nobody would want to publish this. This is trash. Like, they're just not rocking with her books at all. So, during her time of her being fired, she has been writing this book called Rusted Robots, which is a sci-fi novel about a main character robot who is following her journey of there's no humans on the planet left. Actually, I'm not going to say too much because, baby, the Rusted Robots book, that aspect of this book was my favorite part of the book, which is shocking because I don't read too much sci-fi or fantasy, so I'm not really sure, like, where I stand when it comes to sci-fi and fantasy. But baby, I ate up the sci-fi aspect of this book, the Rusted Robots aspect of this book. Chef's kiss, baby. Chef's freaking kiss. If she just needs to take Rusted Robots out of that book and make it its own book, and I'm going to eat it up. The vibe of Rusted Robots reminded me of, wait a minute, let me get the title because I always, Love is War. Okay, This Is How You Lose the Time War by Max Gladstone. That is like the vibe of how I felt of that book is how I felt about Rusted Robots, that aspect of that book. So the main character robot, there's no humans on the planet left, and it follows her journey of being the last of her kind as well because something happens. And the parallels between the main character of the Rusted Robots and the main character of Zelu is crazy. But anyways, so yeah, we follow Zelu, and she's been writing this story called Rusted Robots, and she's never released it because it's sci-fi, and she's thinking like, ain't nobody going to want to read this. You know how you produce a piece of content that is brilliant, but it's something that you don't really think is brilliant, or you don't think people are going to enjoy it because it is something that you can just gracefully produce because you're a creative, you're an artist, and it's just something that you're naturally just able to produce because it's a part of you that you're good at. It's a part of your gift. But it's not a part of your gift that you share because you don't think that people are going to like it. And so you usually only produce content that you think people will like. And then, when you produce that content that you think nobody's going to like, that's the content that usually blows up and goes viral. Well, that's what Rusted Robots is for Zelu. She's just like, what do I have to lose? So she just sends it to the publisher, it gets published, and the book goes viral for her. It starts making millions of dollars. It turns into an adaptation. It gets picked up for another book, for book number 2. And so we follow that journey, and the plot takes place. She is a Nigerian American, and so the plot takes place here in America and then as well as Nigeria. And I've been reading a lot of authors from Nigeria lately. I also for my February book of the month pick, I picked up this book, A Season of Light, and this is a Nigerian. I'm not sure if the author is Nigerian, but the book takes place in Nigeria, I think, because it does mention Nigeria over here in the synopsis. I don't know if I read any other books by African authors who aren't Nigerian. because the only other books that I read was Only Big Bum Bums Matter, and Nearly All the Men in Lagos Are Mad. Let me see what is her name? Yeah, and that's by Demalari Kuku. I don't know if she's Nigerian, but the plot of those books that are by her are take place in Nigeria. And then I just read this one. She's from Nigeria. I also read Caleb Nelson. What's his last name? Caleb Nelson. Caleb? Is that how you say his name? Oh, it is Caleb Nelson. So it's Caleb Azuma Nelson, Open Water. That took place in Africa. That had an African plot as well. And um, but where did it take place? But they were in London and then they took a trip to Africa. But I don't remember where it was. Oh, he's a British Ghanaian writer. Okay, so one from Ghana. I don't know if they're from Nigeria, but I've been in Nigeria a lot. So if you have, and one thing that I'm learning is that maybe Africans are great storytellers. These African writers are great storytellers. So if you have any African author recommendations for me, drop them down below. So back to Death of the Author, phenomenal book. Is there anything else that I want to say about it? I've already been talking for so long, but baby, I read some really good books this month. And Death of the Author, I want to experience this book again. And I did listen to mine on audiobook as well as I read the physical copy a little bit just to get a feel of the foundation of the book as well as to grasp some of the story before I switched over to audio because I have a hard time listening to fiction books on audio because I think being a nonfiction reader, when you're reading nonfiction, you actually have to obtain information. And so I apply that same thing to when I'm reading fiction. And if there's too much going on, I cannot grasp all of that in an audiobook, especially if I'm putting it on 2.0 speed. Like I don't see how y'all can do that. So I had to listen to it on 1.35 speed, and the narrator is dual narration. And so there's one for the guys and one for the girls, and the one who does all of the women, she does a phenomenal job. I don't know if there's more than one female narrator, but she has a great American accent, and then switching over to the Nigerian accent, phenomenal job. Phenomenal, phenomenal, phenomenal. But yeah, I would prefer, or you could do like immerse reading where you listen to the audiobook and the physical book together. But I would recommend the audiobook because I feel like it was just a great audiobook, and being that it is a story, it's just like you're listening to a movie in your ears. All right, so that was Death of the Author by Anita Okafor. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. Okay, so next we have How the Plot Thickens. I don't know why my voice is going out the way that it is, but it is. Anyways, so we have Joanna Kimber's How the Plot Thickens. This is an arc, so it will be releasing this month on February 25th. I wish it was releasing, so it was originally supposed to release the end of January, which would have been perfect for Valentine's Day, because this book is so cute. This book is giving Valentine's Day. Like, this book needs to be in a book flower bouquet. You know how they do like the book bouquets with like flowers or snacks? Like, I don't know why every time I see this cover, I think of it needing to be in a book bouquet, and it is just so cute like that too. It's just like the perfect little, not cheesy, but like the perfect little cute rom-com. Okay, so we follow. Okay, so I feel like I'm starting to malfunction, and I still have two more books to discuss. So we follow Eden, who is an author. She writes romance novels, and people are not rocking with her books at all. Like, she lives in a small town, so it is small town vibes, and people are not rocking with her books. She does write under a different pen name, and baby, when I say they are bashing her books, they're bashing her books because they're like, is this girl virgin? Has she even had any type of activity with a man? Because the scenes, the spicy scenes in her books are not giving. Like, nobody does that. Yeah, nobody does that. And so she's just feeling discouraged. She doesn't know what to do. She actually is a virgin, and she just don't know what to do, and she's fed up. She doesn't, her love life is iffy. And one day she's just kicking it with her friend. They have a few drinks, and before she goes to sleep, she's just like, I just wish I could meet a man like the men that I write in my books. And so when she wakes up, her wish comes true, and she goes into the coffee shop that morning that she wakes up after making the wish, and she meets one of her book boyfriends. And then one of her book boyfriends is a trained professional assassin. So, baby, the vibes, like, the creativity of this book, it is magical realism. She ate, because I read all of Joanna Kimber's book thus far. So usually she writes like, to me, her books give woman fiction the way she writes them with romance. And to see her write something completely different, and to see her showcase her creativity so much more, and how talented she is as an author as well as an artist, I'm so proud of her. And y'all know, like, last year I fell in love with magical realism after reading The 7 Year Slip. So I also need to read Tia Williams' A Love Song for Ricky Raw, because people were saying that that was magical realism. And I was, baby, when I heard the word magical realism, I'm like, who wants to read that? And I need to stop doing it. Because then after 7 Year Slip, baby, magical realism, I completed her whole catalog. So when Joanna Kimber said she was dropping a book with magical realism, I was like, I need it. And I ate it up, baby. She did even the cover is, the creativity of this cover is, bro, A plus. A plus. She passed. She's such a phenomenal being. Like, I love creativity. Like, she just, yeah, I can't wait to see her growth even more as an author. But I don't want to say too much because it is an arc, and I want you to have the vibes for yourself. But just know that if you into magical realism and her meeting all of the book boyfriends that she wrote in her book, you're going to love it. And this is another micro trope of an author writing about an author writing a book about her journey of meeting her book boyfriends and then finding love, and that book being the book that you're currently reading. Mind blown. Mind blown. I don't know why I love that so much, but I do. Okay, next we have two books I'm so excited to talk about. So excited to talk about. So we have Don't Cry for Me and Isaac's Song, both by Daniel Black. So this one I included in my February book of the month pick because y'all's raggedy butts did not tell me that this was the second book to this one. So it wasn't until after I received this that I started seeing people, post their reviews and say that this was second to Don't Cry for Me. And I had Don't Cry for Me on my Kindle for the longest. Like, that book has been sitting on my Kindle library forever. And I was going to read this in my Black November for November, and I never got around to reading it. And I'm glad that God made me wait to read it now, because reading this and Isaac's song together imperative. Like, you don't have to read them together. You can read them out of order, but I feel like you need to read them in order just to get the full experience, to get the full Black excellence, to get the full greatness of both of those books. You need to read them in order. And if you don't want to read them in order, you still just need to read them together, back to back, okay? So, in Don't Cry for Me, we follow the father, Jacob, of Isaac. Jacob is Isaac's father. So, in Don't Cry for Me, we follow Jacob. He's on his deathbed. And, you know what? I'm going to come back and talk about this because I need to go to work. And I'm not going to have the time that I need to discuss that book. So instead of rushing, I'm going to call y'all back. All right, y'all, I'm back. It's been several hours later. So if I look like a train wreck, it's because I literally just got off from work and I came right back to this video. So I think where I left off, I was talking about Don't Cry and Isaac's Song by Daniel Black, which will be on the screen. So, what I was saying was, let me see if in this book, because I did read Don't Cry for Me on my Kindle. I wonder if he put the author's note in here. Okay, yes, good. The author's note is in here. So, yeah, I read this on my Kindle. And then, so Don't Cry for Me follows Jacob, who is the father of Isaac. And the way this book is written, it is a bunch of letters, dated letters. You can see that? Dated letters that are to his son Isaac. And it's the countdown because Jacob is currently on his deathbed. And he was giving a specific diagnosis and a certain amount of time, and he refused treatment. So he is on his deathbed, and prior to him being on his deathbed, there was this moment in his life that happened where he just realized how much of a terrible father he had been, and how hard he was, and how he did not have the tools and knowledge, wisdom, experience. He just came to a point in his life where he understood that pretty much he was a bad father. And when I tell you, like, this book was therapy for me, because it's like Mr. Black. Are we related to the same men? Because this was hitting a little too close to home, like way too close to home. And in his author's note, he said, like, I wonder if Daniel wrote this based off of him, like him low key being somewhat Isaac and his father being somewhat Jacob, because in his author's note, he said in 2013 his father was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And then, so towards the end of his author's note, he said, so this book, this record of a poor Black father's appeal, is what any dying daddy might say to his son. More than anything, I want readers to reconsider the capacity of our fathers' hearts. Many of them were handed so little, yet we expected so much. They gave more than they had, but less than we needed. They were burdened with the notion of manhood that destroyed so many sons' lives, but they didn't know another notion to teach. In the end, many destroyed themselves too. So you definitely have to read the author's note, of course. So I just wonder, like, if, he experienced the same thing, because he did mention in here that he was not able to say, yeah, I'm not going to read too much more so you guys can experience it for yourself. But I need to go back. I'm going to read this book again because it's very short, a very short, easy read. And I need to go back and highlight and annotate everything that I did in my Kindle. There was a certain points of this book where I was just so triggered that I couldn't highlight, because there was a part of this book where there's a piece of dialogue where I heard these same exact words from a man before, and I was just like taken aback. Like, wow, wow. Like, in the Black community, like, Daniel Black does a good job with portraying Black trauma in our community, maybe due to him being a person in the thick of Black trauma. And so this book, like I said, follows Jacob, who is the father, and he's on his deathbed. So his letters to his son is his apology, because his pride was way stronger than his love, pretty much, because he did try to physically go say sorry to his son, but he just could not do it. So his pride literally ate him alive. And so this was his way of saying sorry to his son in these letters, and with the intent that once he died, these letters will be laid out on their family home, and Isaac will come find the letters and hopefully read them. And so in his apology letter, he just also goes back to the beginning of time. Like, I want to say sorry that I was not the father that you needed or wanted. And this is what made me who I am today. And so he goes all the way back to his childhood, how he was raised, the different experiences to present day time. And so Jacob comes from a family in, is that Alabama? It's either Alabama or Arkansas. Oh, he comes from a legacy in rural Arkansas that extends back to slavery. So his family is one generation removed from slavery. So a bunch of, like, if you know, if you're in the Black community, Jacob was that stern, very strict father, you know, you ain't about to be no sissy in my house type man. Like, boys don't do that. Boys don't do this. And even the way he treated his wife as well. I would love to have the mother's perspective, but we're just going to keep it between father and son. But even if you're not, even if you did not grow up with this dynamic, but you grew up in the Black community and you experienced some type of Black trauma, or, in the Black community, period, I feel like you would benefit from reading this, because you might know somebody in your family who has experienced it, like your cousin who had a father like this, or uncle, or, there's somebody, if you in the Black community, where you may potentially know a bunch of, especially the older generation, a lot of Black men in the older generation are like this. But not even, there's still men present day who still think like this, because it just has been passed down generation after generation after generation. And like I said, this book is therapy for me. I cannot stop thinking about this book. Like, it's just because it's just so, like, therapeutic. Like, thank you for seeing me. I know I'm not crazy. Like, even though it's a fiction novel, but so much in this is the truth of so many other people. So this is a book, like, so far I've been reading a few books, coming across a few books that I feel like I deeply want to gift my son. And so this is one of the books that will be on that list of books to gift to my son when he gets of age. So then going into Isaac's Song by Daniel Black. Isaac's Song, I really thought that this was going to be about Isaac reacting to the letters. It's not. Because when I opened the book, I couldn't get to that part fast enough. And I kept reading and kept reading. I'm like, okay, am I being punked? Because, baby, when I tell you I got, like, to the end of the book, close to the end of the book, and I was like, oh no, he's not going to read the letters, and I'm going to have to message Daniel Black and give him the biggest paragraph in text message history, not even a text, but DM history, of how disappointed I am that Isaac did not react to the letters. But he does end up reacting to the letters, but this book is not solely based off of that. So this book opens up to Isaac going to therapy due to the passing of his mother and father. So he goes to a therapist. So his is cut into, it cuts to him, his therapy sessions with his therapist. And then also his therapist tells him, because he just wants a better understanding of his childhood. He wants to understand his father more, even though he has passed away. You know, there was so much unresolved unresolved feelings there, you know, like he just still has so many questions because him and his father were estranged. He did not like how he was treated by his father. You know, he was abused in many ways, and he just didn't understand. So he just still feels like he has questions. And so he goes to his therapist, and his therapist was like, have you ever wrote your story? And he's like, no. So she tells him, as one of his projects for therapy, or homework for therapy, is to write his story. So then it's also cuts to like day one of him writing his story. And then it's like day two of him writing his story. And then the ones where the chapters are like, that doesn't have a day on it, like these are blank. And then the ones where you see where it says like day 5. So the ones that are blank, that is when he is speaking with his therapist. And then the ones where it says day, whatever number, is him writing his story, and him going back to his childhood and reliving what he went through to get a deeper and better understanding of the way he perceived things. So he's having these moments where he's like, dang, now that I'm writing this and reliving the moment, what I thought wasn't. And then there are some situations that Isaac is reliving that Jacob did not mention in his letters, that he low-key should have. Like, wait a minute, Jacob, you ain't mentioned that. And so, and he touches on his relationship with his mother more in here, because he was a mommy's boy, of course, because his dad was so hard. And so he's just starting to understand that although I did not like how my father treated me, I didn't do what I needed to do. Or I just didn't, he didn't understand his father. Like, it's almost like he just wished he had the information that he did to be able to understand his father. So, both of these books together, baby, Chef's Kiss. Yeah, both of these books together, Chef's Kiss. And like I said before, it's imperative that you read both of these together, because it's just for the full experience. Like, you have to experience both of these books together. But hands down, this one, baby, touches me. It just, Isaac's song was good too. Like, I love the therapist aspect of this one, because baby, that therapist, she was playing no games. Like, you ain't coming into my office and on no games. Like, we're here to get you to where you need to be, and we're not about to play around. We're not beating around the bush. And I love the therapist. Actually love the therapist, because she was applying pressure. But yeah, it's imperative that you read both of these together. And I don't know, this book is just, it was just so comforting. It's just, even though it's very heavy, very deep in Black trauma, especially due to if you had any of these male figures in your life in any way, shape, or form, it's going to trigger you. But I love it. I love it. I can't wait to reread it and just go back and just highlight the parts that I annotated in my Kindle and put it back in here. Baby, that book is just, I love it. I love it. But that is enough yapping for today, for this January reading wrap up. It's so long. Oh my gosh, it's so long. This is like probably my longest reading wrap up, because I don't think I usually talk about what the books are about. I think I usually just say what they are. But one thing I have been wanting to do moving forward is just to speak about my books more. So here we are with almost an hour long video. 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 Okay, I'm getting off track. So yeah, I thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for rocking with me. Shout out to all my new subscribers. We are locked in. I thank you so much for subscribing. I hope you stick around. Somebody's texting me. I hope you stick around until my A1 day ones. I see you. I see you. But if you haven't done so already, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. Lock in with your girl, because what? It's nice and chill over here, baby. Go ahead and leave me some love down in the comments. Let me know if you read any of these books. And give this video a thumbs up, because y'all ain't seen me in a minute. And here I am. And once again, I thank you so much for watching.